Hello, Lucas and Lisa. Welcome to Halloween Daily. Thanks so much for talking to us today.
Thanks for having us, and I appreciate you having the name of your podcast and interview on your shirt, so we know exactly where we're at.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. Nothing like some constant advertising and getting it in everybody's heads. And as you can
Yeah,
see, it's always orange
advertising.
and black October for us here.
I know, and I see the character behind you there from Halloween. Yep.
Yes, there you go. There you go. So we are here today talking about your new movie, House of Abraham. So Lucas, let's start with you. You wrote the film. You also star in it as Abraham. Um, Tell us a little bit about how this story originated for you, and was it always your intention to play the title role of Abraham?
Well, so Lisa and myself, we collaborated before on a short film, and always enjoyed working with one another. And Lisa called me up one day and said, "I think we should maybe make a feature together, and let's throw some ideas around." And I pitched her some different ideas, and we sort of honed in on the House of Abraham. And I think, as a writer and coming from the indie film world, I think it's incredibly important to not try to compete with Hollywood because they're going to have bigger money, bigger names, bigger everything. So I think your best bet as an indie filmmaker is to do something they would never touch. And so I like this notion of this sort of very dark subject matter that I feel unfairly gets sort of shunned. It's for a lot of people, it's uncomfortable to talk about end of life and so forth. And I was inspired by what's happening around us in the country about sort of, I feel sometimes weaker people are manipulated by smarter people, more ruthless people. And so the exploration was be careful who you trust when you're at your most vulnerable, right? Because you can easily be swayed in directions that don't necessarily benefit yourself. So that was sort of the core of the inspiration for it. And as an actor myself, I knew I could give sort of a truthfulness to Abraham, because
Mhm.
I knew exactly where he came from. And as a person myself, I'm also very comfortable. There's nothing I'm uncomfortable talking about. I'm comfortable of all dark areas of human nature, as well as the bright and light side of human nature. So that's sort of where Abraham sort of was sprung from.
He's definitely a unique character in the pantheon of horror and thrillers. Lisa, this being your feature directorial debut, what aspect of this project excited you the most to really kind of dig in and put your stamp on as a director?
Yeah, well, like Lucas said, we'd collaborated before, so we said let's kind of put together a one-room horror. So I have not. This is my first time also working in this genre, so that was appealing. Working with Lucas was appealing, and his script in particular is very unique and unexpected, and is nothing that I'd ever seen before. And so I think the uniqueness of the script was probably the biggest draw for me because there's a lot of things out there we've seen before, and I think this is special.
And like you both said, I mean, it does deal with some significantly heavy subject matter that is can be hard to discuss. And but I found that there are still you found moments of like some little levity here and there, and it's almost kind of weird to be laughing sometimes, but a lot of that came from I think the casting of the great Lynn Shay as Beatrice in there, who was just you know she's always great, but she was a joy to see on screen in all of her scenes. Was some of that what she brought into it, or was all of that kind of in the script? And can you each maybe talk about from your own point of view that kind of balance of bringing just a tiny bit of levity in there, amid all the seriousness?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, should I go ahead? Do you want to go?
Yes, Lucas, you because you wrote
Okay.
with
Well,
her.
so Lynn Shay was actually the role of Beatrice was the only role that I wrote for someone in particular. I had worked with Lynn before,
Okay.
and she's someone. As soon as you meet her, you realize this is a woman of significant abilities. Not only is she kind and astute, but she's also someone. I mean, I compare her to like a racehorse. She's just you almost have to hold her back because she has so many ideas, so much energy, so much creativity that you sort of got to pick your moments of when to let her freak flag fly, so to speak. And so it was written with her in mind. And when we sent her the script and she loved the script, she was the first one on board, I think, which was brilliant to know. And so she would, you just know that she's going to come up with things. We talked earlier. I sort of had there's a plastic bag scene that's pretty hard to watch at one point, right? And and then when you come on set and Lynn takes the the gaffer tape and just like pulls it out with the sign and her whole energy doing that. That was not in the writing, right? That's all Lin Shaye that comes in with someone that was something that makes that work. It just elevates it, right? Another actor may just have pulled out the tape and got going with it, but she actually brought something to every move. It's very purposeful acting. And I, as a fellow actor, love to see that in others. It's the surprise of what people can come up with. And Lynn and Natasha Henstridge are masters at that.
Yeah, I mean, on the note of levity, yes, there is a lot of that through Beatrice, but also through other points in the film, which, as you know, as going forward, we didn't have intentions of making comedy, but in screenings and hearing people laugh, I think it's so ridiculous, some of Abraham's choices and all of this, that we have to laugh to relieve some of that stress. So it's surprising but kind of awesome with the spots where people laugh. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of sort of spoofy horror myself. I know a lot of people love that, and that's great. For me, I think it's important to get levity in here and there, but I was also very adamant to not, like, the tone of this film could very easily veer into parody or too much, right? And I wanted it to be grounded. I wanted to really bring up some of those hard questions and make it an uncomfortable watch. And so if it leans into levity too much, it doesn't bring up that hard questions. It gives people an excuse to sort of turn off and go, oh, it's all a laugh, right? So I wanted it to get that tone right, and Lisa nailed it.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it is that balance where it's, you know, it's just enough to release some of the uncomfortableness sometimes, you know, but not enough to push it into another genre. And speaking of genre, Lisa, were there any other genre influences that you either were kind of consciously wanting to pay homage to, or in the uniqueness of this film, really like tropes that you were consciously trying to avoid?
Well, I kind of said this before. This is my, first experience directing in this genre, and I'm sort of a new fan of horror. So I've had a great journey, sort of catching up on a lot of those classic films, which I still have a list. Nice. But to me, the big scary monster in this film is human nature, and that was what I really wanted to make scary. And I think, especially through the character of Abraham, hopefully that came through.
Yeah, absolutely, and I like that take on it as well. That that is kind of the overall big scary monster. And again, not to spoil too much, but I mean, people have seen the trailer, and there are some fairly gruesome death scenes in here. Can you talk a little bit about shooting some of that, like on set, and some of the challenges of pulling that off? I mean, again, I don't want to spoil too much for people that haven't seen it yet, but there's some gruesome death scenes.
No, we can talk about those. I think probably one of my favorites is the pool scene.
Yes,
and was very intricate to pull off. A lot of people, working, starting with the design of the cage underwater, which we thought came out, great. But obviously, safety, underwater. It was, it was spring in Austin, so it wasn't warm or it wasn't cold, but we still had to warm the pool, and Lukas was you were wet all day. It was really a fun scene to put together, and shout out to Will Magnuson, who plays the role of Jonathan underwater. He was so down to do those takes over and over and over, and I'm really happy with the way that scene came out, and also with Stefan Schmidt and his music. And shout out to Tina Guo, also a musician. I think it really, I feel like it came together, but it was fun to create it. What do you think, Lukas?
Well, and for me, for me as a writer, I think in horror, there's such a breadth of sort of what scares people, right? And for some people, it's an axe in the head, and it's a head rolling down the hallway. And for people like myself, I'm more terrified about sort of, in the more real sense of sort of the pool, what the pool represents, or a bag over your head, things that are more subtle in that sense. That's the stuff that makes me wake up at night sort of out of breath or whatever. So I wanted to really lean into this notion of what can be super uncomfortable to sit through. So I was looking for the uncomfortability more than the scared part necessarily, because we kind of see where it's going in a way. But if I can make people really squirm and almost want to leave the cinema, that's a win.
Absolutely. Well, I think there'll be some squirming watching through these scenes. And you know, you mentioned in talking at the beginning about some of the inspiration of this. It is kind of, you know, based on real world events. Are there any, you know, I mean, we've seen so many just, you know, cults in the news over the years, and cult leaders, and of all different kinds, you know, everything, you know, just from well, there's any number of them. Were there any of those that you can talk about that were kind of specific inspirations in the creation of Abraham?
Well, so there are, I wouldn't say there was like I did research on various leaders and so forth, but it was mainly about the manipulation part of it, right? Of like someone in power abusing their power over weaker people than themselves. And for me, I just look around the world today and I see that happen constantly. And that's why this film, why now? That's why it has relevance to me more than just being a horror film. It's also, we can answer the why this, why now. But I listened to the tapes of Jonestown with the leader back there, and the cult leader that took people down to Guyana. I listened to all those tapes, and it's pretty horrifying to have actual audio tapes of all that. Yeah, I think I stole a snippet of some of that, where Abraham at one point says mother, 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 and that's a direct homage to that character. So overall, it was just a matter of exploring a character who had no boundaries. Like there was nothing that this character was afraid of looking at or confronting or entertaining in his mind. And I think those people are the scariest of all. They have no boundaries.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well said, and well played for sure. I know our audience is going to love the movie. It's coming out in select theaters on Friday the 13th, and even though it's June as we're recording this, for our last few minutes, if you'll indulge us, as you can see, every day is Halloween for us. So we always try to ask a little bit. First of all, do you guys celebrate the Halloween holiday? And if so, what does Halloween mean to you? I guess Lisa, we'll start with you, and then Lucas.
Yeah. Well, I'm a mom and I have 3 kids. They're kind of older now, but yeah, Halloween was always a big neighborhood event. We lived in this neighborhood where there were golf carts that were decorated, and parents with their wine and all the things. And so to me, it's Halloween, the holiday, is a very family event, and I love candy, so it's about the candy.
Well, for me, I just think it's a great time of year for people to explore sides of themselves that maybe not access the rest of the year. I love seeing how other people get super excited about it. And I had a horror idea back in the day that I may have developed at some point about this notion of somebody, you know, butchering somebody and putting them in a little cart and dragging this body through the streets of New York on Halloween night, where nobody's looking twice because they obviously think it's a fake doll. And there's blood dripping off the cart, and he gets a satisfaction out of killing people on Halloween night in full display of everybody else. I never developed it, but if somebody listens to this and steals the story, good luck to you. But so Halloween sort of celebrates the night of everything is on the table.
Dude, awesome. Write that. Let's do it. I like that idea.
I think we hear a deal happening right here.
Yep.
Right, it's happening as we speak. You're part of it.
Yeah, let's make it happen. Breaking news right here. Yeah, we're well, you know, we'll be here for it. We love our horror movies, and we especially love our Halloween horror movies. For our last minute, still on Halloween. Lisa, you mentioned you love candy, and you know, we always try to ask what is for each of you your favorite Halloween candy or treat, and also your favorite Halloween costume that you've ever worn.
Oh, wow. Okay, Almond Joys, 100%. Those are my favorite candies. And then costume, let's think. I had sort of a Moroccan belly dancer outfit that I got in Hong Kong at this crazy market, and I've pulled it out at least 5 times because it has these jingles on it, and it's bright green, and yeah, so that was my.
I would like to see you in
awesome.
That.
You would?
I'm just saying.
That's awesome.
I'm a stick. I like those little mini Heath bars.
Oh yeah.
There's like caramelly chewy. I'm in. Mary Jane's, the little Mary Jane peanut butter and thingies, I'm all in. Anything that can pull out my teeth, I'm all in. And as for costume, I think I've only actually dressed up once, and I was a giant baby. I had, you know, a soother around my neck. I had like a sheet where I had to make sure my left testicle didn't pop out. It was a very tight knot. So like a giant baby, that's my go-to.
That's your go-to.
All right,
Awesome.
I want pictures.
Yeah, yeah. I want to see both of those. I mean, I expect the Instagram posts, flashback posts to both of those costumes now.
You gave me a turkey.
Awesome. Well, again, guys, I know you're both very busy today. I love the movie. I appreciate you talking to us. This has been awesome. And instead of saying goodbye, we always just like to end by wishing everybody a happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Keep it on real.